There are a lot of video games, a lot of them good, a very good chunk of them being very bad, but most tragic of all are the ones that slip through the cracks, the arguably good games that don't get enough recognition or just didn't sell well enough to warrant a sequel or to expand on it in any way. Those are the most tragic to me. So I got to thinking, what are the top 10 games I can think off to like the top of my head that are criminally underrated and I feel deserve more love? Well, without further ado, let's take a look. Lost Odyssey. To me, this is one of the best JRPGs of all time and easily in my top 3. I've talked about this game in multiple videos on this channel, so go look up any of those top 10s, like my top 10 JRPGs for the 360 and things like that. But if you recently played, say, Expedition 33, this is a game you want to check out as it has many of the same gameplay similarities to it in terms of being a turn-based game with a slightly more engaging take on combat with its combat rings and timing attacks to increase damage. The characters, the worlds, the story, the graphics, all are top-notch and from the mind of Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy. The only problem with this game is that it is forever stuck on the Xbox 360, or with backwards compatibility at least on the Xbox One and the series consoles. If you never tried this game, but enjoy games like Final Fantasy X, or even recently Expedition 33, this is the JRPG to fill that void. Spec Ops: The Line. Nowadays, even people who have never played this game have at least heard of it by now. It's a typical third-person shooter with all the gameplay bells and whistles one would expect from such a game, but what makes this game so memorable is narrative. This is a haunting game about the horrors of war and its effects on one's psyche. There's many choices to be made within the game that alter things here and there, and I won't spoil any of the revelations and story beats as I feel this is something everyone needs to experience themselves. A game that while I would have liked to see something of a follow-up or another game in the same vein, it just wouldn't hit as hard. So this one is one of those rare games where it might actually be better as just a one-off, sadly. Immortals: Fenyx Rising. Do you like open world games? Do you like Greek mythology? Do you enjoy a campy story filled with dumb humor and comedy? Did you enjoy Breath of the Wild's like shrine puzzles? Well, look no further than this game. While I am not a huge fan of Breath of the Wild myself, I am a huge Assassin's Creed fan. And this is like, Odyssey and whatever had a baby, taking the best of both games and combining them with an arcadey kind of feel. The combat is enjoyable with your typical fast and heavy attacks to drain enemies' stamina bars to do even more damage. You have a bow and arrows, and Breath of the Wild's, magnet ability to pick up and throw objects, as well as like the stamina climbing mechanic from those games. You have a glider and horse to get across the world, open world more quickly, which is divided into zones with a different landscape to them, so the world never looks or feels the same for long. Sadly, the game didn't sell too well, and Ubisoft canceled any plans for a sequel, but the main game and all 3 DLCs are a fun ride if you enjoy open worlds, puzzles, and that kind of checklisty kind of gameplay style of gameplay that Ubisoft is known for. Vanquish. A fast-paced third-person shooter developed by Platinum Games, that alone should have made this game a blockbuster seller, but alas it did not. At the time of release was around the height of cover-based shooter games, but Vanquish did away with all that and instead posed the question, why hide behind cover? And when you can just speed boost slide and flip everywhere, slowing down time, getting kills as fast as possible. The constant gameplay positive feedback of playing aggressively instead of reacting to the enemies was unique at the time. The game was notable for introducing several innovations to the 3D shooter genre, including, like I said, a fast-paced style of gameplay reminiscent of like 2D bullet hell shooters, beat-em-up elements, and an original sliding boost mechanic. A criminally underrated game that sadly got a lot of flack at the time for being just too short and had no multiplayer component, and we're probably never going to see any follow-up ever. Titanfall 2. Not only one of my favorite, single-player first-person shooters in recent years, but one of my favorite multiplayer shooter games in recent years as well. Most people just know about like Apex Legends, the battle royale that takes place in the same universe, but true gamers know of this masterpiece as EA stupidly sandwiched the game between Call of Duty and Battlefield with only a week or so separating the titles. The gunplay, the wall running, the mech fights, BT being an absolute gem of a companion in single player, and the fast-paced grapple hooking, wall running, mech-on-mech combat in multiplayer is second to none. It's a shame we're probably never going to get Titanfall 3, as Respawn is pretty much focusing all, of its, development time on the final Jedi game in the trilogy, and providing updates to, in my opinion, the inferior Apex Legends. The company also just recently laid off 100 employees, which is just a damn tragedy. Silent Hill 4: The Room. Often described as the black sheep of the series, at least in terms of the original PS1 and PS2 released games, this entry introduces you to a new protagonist named Henry Townsend, and experiments with a first-person perspective sometimes when you're inside Harry's apartment, which is located in Ashfield. While you might long for that oppressive atmosphere and fog-drenched Silent Hill landscape, you still get to explore other worlds and encounter some of the series' most eerie and disturbing creature designs yet. The feelings of isolation and haunting imagery when stuck inside your apartment is as Silent Hill-y as one could get. In the first half, the room is your safe haven, a place of calming and reprieve from when you come back from exploring outside. But in time, this becomes reversed as it gets more and more haunting and drains your health, and you dread having to return back every time. It's very unique in the series and definitely a bit overlooked, but definitely deserves a second chance. Here's hoping Bloober Team remakes the first 4 games in the series, as with the resounding success of the remake of Silent Hill 2, and the news of them now tackling the first game with a remake, the sky's the limit on what they can do with a potential Silent Hill 3 and a Silent Hill 4 remake. Vampyr. A Souls-like kind of game where you play a vampire physician during the Spanish flu in London, but with a whole social system added in, which you have to stalk your to-be victims or potential victims, while deciding to give in to the thirst of blood or resist and keep every district healthy by administering medicine to the inhabitants. All the while having to solve a mystery surrounding vampire society, who turned you into such a creature, leading to the tragic opening of the game, where you seek not only understanding, but revenge. You traverse a small section of London split into 4 districts, with vampires, werewolves, and hunters as the primary enemies of the game. You have a skill and perk tree, different melee and ranged weapons to use, and cool vampire skills you get the more XP you have. There's also the moral choice and whether you want to feed on the human inhabitants for easy XP after solving cases, or to lean into your human side and ignore the vampiric cravings, making combat harder. If you have any interest in a Souls-like kind of game, or combat and systems similar to the Star Wars Jedi games, you can't go wrong here with a very compelling story and top-notch voice acting. One of my favorite AA games ever. Marvel's Midnight Suns. This is a game that I am pissed people overlooked because of its card mechanics and Marvel fatigue at the time. Instead of being an open world or action-adventure game, it's a tactical turn-based RPG with plenty of similarities to XCOM with a deck-building twist on top. Midnight Suns manages to be a lot of the things at once while avoiding the annoyances of most of them. It's got the relationship social links like the Persona series without the time pressure. It's got the deck building and card upgrading like Slay the Spire without the randomness. It has a hub home base area to explore for materials and lore collectibles, kind of like Dragon Age, without being such a wide area as to become overwhelming. You build a deck of 8 or so cards for each hero you take with you on main or side missions to complete. You have pushback attacks, knockdowns, multiple hit attacks, team up attacks, the list goes on and on. There is a lot of story and cutscenes here as well, so there's no shortage in that department, which is actually kind of interesting, as the main character is a custom character you make at the beginning called the Hunter, and you form friendships and relationships not only between you and them, but between them and other heroes as well, with dialogue options in between missions while you explore the Abbey. This is a game that sadly did not explode in popularity or sales and just slipped by everyone. But if you have any interest in Marvel or turn-based, strategy combat like XCOM, give this game a shot. It's damn good. The Saboteur. Now we're really going back into the past with this one, in more ways than one. The Saboteur is a period-correct open-world game based on the start of World War II in Paris. Think of this as like a spin-off GTA game, but with its style, setting, music, and the grayscale to colored gimmick all coming together to make this something different from other games. You play as Sean Devlin, an Irish race car driver and mechanic who sees himself trapped in France after the Nazi invasion and without hope after some tragedy happened. The core of the plot revolves around a personal vendetta between Sean and a high-ranked German officer. Imagine a mix of Assassin's Creed, Grand Theft Auto, Hitman, and a little bit of Just Cause 2. It's an open world game with tons of side activities scattered around. Some of these objectives require Sean to climb buildings in a parkour style or traverse from one rooftop to another through cables like a zip line. Because of the Nazi presence, if any soldier sees Sean climbing, you have a little time to descent before they start shooting. Another type of objective is like invading a complex or restricted area to destroy or kill a target. Here you can go guns blazing or stealth kill a soldier, take his clothes, and infiltrate right under their nose, a la Hitman style. But if we stay running or near another soldier, they begin to suspect you and your cover can be blown. There's also free play objectives, with no relation to any mission that, you can destroy and get extra cash. But it's just a shame we never got any follow-up to this, and very, very shortly after, it was released that EA murdered the studio Pandemic due to low sales. Rest in peace, Pandemic, you were one of the very, very good ones. Sleeping Dogs. This game is so underrated, and it kinda pendulum swings back to not being underrated, as I have yet to hear someone talk negatively about this game in any way in at least over 10 years. It tells a compelling tale about Hong Kong police officer Wei Shen, who has gone undercover to infiltrate the Triads. Throughout the game, he struggles to manage his two lives of keeping his cover, but also getting close and becoming friends with many in the Triad. Originally meant to be another game in the True Crime series, Square Enix purchased the rights from Activision and renamed it to Sleeping Dogs. Imagine, if you will, Grand Theft Auto, but better in every way. The driving is better, jumping from car to car to hijack instead of doing it on foot, a greater emphasis on melee combat as guns are much more scarce in this game, and an amazing well-acted story with twists and turns always keeping you on the edge of your seat. Fans have been begging for a sequel for over a decade, but Square Enix deemed the game a failure, with sales not meeting their expectations. Like, we haven't heard that all the damn time from this stupid company. There is a movie finally going forward, however, with Shang-Chi star Simu Liu to star as Wei Shen. So hopefully, if that does well, it could spark interest for another game in the series to be made, and hopefully continue Wei's story. And those are my top 10, at least off the top of my head, games I feel are too underrated for how good they are. This isn't really in any order, so you can swap these interchangeably, but my overall message is check these games out if you ever get the chance. You won't be disappointed. Or at least, I hope not. And if you somehow manage to make it this far, thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me. And with that, my friends, talk to you next time.